This is the Media Police Post, broadcasting from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this show, we police the state of truth in the Republic. And because truth is communicated to us by journalists and analysts, we have made it our civic duty to put it to the test. We advance from two confirmed truths about the media. One, and according to Roger Stone, the media is either lazy or evil, and for the most part, it is both evil and lazy. That is why the truth, their truth, must be put to a test.
And two, that journalism is verified gossip. In fact, what is presented to us as news analysis is gossip that has been verified by journalists. This gossip has to be ground truthed. We will assess the state of truth in what they submit to the Republic, and we will pass a verdict on what is true and what is not. For the record, we are not journalists. We are thinkers. We are not lazy or evil, and we do not verify gossip. What we give you is the truth that sets you free.
On today's show, we will discuss ideas that reflect unformed and uninformed opinions, and ideas that made you stupid. Narratives that fell into the cognitive trap of we see things as we are, not as they are. Narratives based on conjecture history, and those that smack of envelope journalism.
So this Monday, we wish to disqualify all columns as having made us stupid. They failed to tell us that there is a very deceitful political conversation that is happening between the Kikuyus and William Ruto. For the second time, Ruto was booed in Nyeri this weekend. In September, he was also stoned in Nyeri. Now, whether these instances were organized or spontaneous is immaterial. What it demonstrates is that there are pockets of resistance to Ruto and a silent, growing majority. So far, it has been socially desirable to affiliate with being a hustler, especially with the people of the mountain. But there could be a shy Kikuyu factor at play, whereby in public, the voters are lying about their choices in order to fit in. And this is borrowing from British politics in the 1990s, where it was observed that opinion polls did not match election results. People pretended to be anti-conservative, but voted differently on election day. They were called the shy Tories. Now the lesson, people are not who we think they are. So if character is who you are in the dark, then we will only see the people's true colors on voting day. Three main factors guide this con game. Kikuyus are being led by conviction, deception, and confusion. Let us begin with conviction, i.e., what are Kikuyus convinced of regarding Ruto? What is this major persuasion or belief that they have? Or has Ruto simply told them that Uhuru is bad because he is not good? Kikuyus think that by following Ruto, they will hurt Uhuru, but they will only hurt themselves. The second factor is deception. Ruto is distorting the Kikuyus' reality. He is gaslighting them in churches and harambes. Now, originally, gaslighting came from an instance where a husband manipulated his wife to make her think she's losing her sense of reality, so he could commit her to a mental institution and steal her inheritance. Now, Ruto is intentionally causing people to be confused, imposing his reality on people. Now, in the words of Groucho Marx, he asks the Kikuyus, who are you going to believe, me or your own eyes? Instead of seeing roads, marketplaces, and hospitals, he causes them to doubt the reality of what they see. Now, the third factor is confusion. For 20 years, Kikuyus have been told that Raila is bad. Now they're being told Baba is good. They have a mental glitch. But can we hypothesize that Raila was only bad to them then because he was running against a Kikuyu candidate? Now there is no Kikuyu candidate, so Baba is no longer bad. Get it? Nota bene, the currency of politics is lies. Thomas Sowell once said, the fact that so many successful politicians are such shameless liars is not only a reflection on them, it is also a reflection on us. When the people want the impossible, only liars can satisfy. Take special notice.
I take special notice. In fact, allow me to build on GK's thoughts a little. Howard Bloom, in his book, The Lucifer Principle, tells us that good and evil are two sides of the same coin. In fact, the more you hate something, the more likely you are to love that thing with the same intensity. And an Indian spiritual leader, Sri Chinmoy, said that hatred is a disguised form of love. You can only hate someone whom you really wish to love. And that's the truth about the relationship between Gema, Raila, Ruto, and Uhuru. As GK said, Kikuyus were told Raila was bad and they hated him with a passion. But because hate and love are mirror opposites, the hate that Kikuyus had for Raila will turn into love. And they will love Raila with the same energy and intensity as they hated him. This is also true of the anti-Uhuru and pro-Ruto sentiments in Gema. The more Gema creates hate against Uhuru, the more likely they are to love him. And even the adoration that Ruto enjoys can quickly turn into animosity and bitterness. The moral here is this: you cannot trust the masses. Just like they did with Jesus, they will welcome you to Jerusalem shouting Hosanna on Sunday and crucify you on Friday. Now I'll end with a random, unrelated thought. Last week, a gentleman by the name of Boniface Mwai filed a petition at the High Court asking the court to introduce the option of none of the above on our ballot papers. The option of none of the above would be counted as a protest vote. It's a way for the voter to exercise their democratic right to reject all the electoral candidates in a measurable manner. Now, currently, there are two ways that you can use to protest vote in an election. The first is to abstain. You simply don't show up to vote. But this can be dismissed as voter apathy. And the second is to spoil your ballot in protest. But all spoiled ballots, the ballots that are spoiled in protest, will be lumped together with those that are spoiled in error. Therefore, a spoiled vote count would be meaningless as a measure of voter discontent. Therefore, both of these methods are imperfect because they cannot accurately represent voter discontent and they don't affect the election result in any way. Now, Kenya has an activist judiciary that may just allow the petition and order IEBC to include the option of none of the above on our 2022 ballot papers as a form of democratic protest. Now, if the courts were to allow this option, what would happen, for instance, if the protest votes, the none of the above option, got 50% of the vote? Now, would the election be nullified and we go back to nominations? And what if none of the above came second? Do you have a runoff with spoiled votes? I don't know. And this situation is not far-fetched because in 2017, if rejected ballots had been a candidate, he or she would have come third.
Wow.
It was Uhuru, Raila, spoiled votes.
Then Musalia.
No, I think Musalia didn't run that year.
Oh, yeah.
So these scenarios may sound far-fetched, but creative legal interpretation could lead us to a crisis. And that is the tragedy of our constitution.
Yeah, I think that is partly inspired by option D in K 844.
844, none of the above.
The wolf of Sugoi. There's a wolf lurking and roaming amongst the people, and this wolf is well adorned in an elaborate disguise. It is a disguise which Jesus himself warned about. It is true. It's in the Bible. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus issues a warning. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. But Jesus also helps us further by adding that you will know them by their fruits. When we consider the warning of Jesus, it is unsettling to the spirit when one William RUTO begins comparing himself to Jesus and telling us that Jesus is a product of bottom-up. This happened over the weekend in Kiambu, when RUTO pointed out that Jesus was born in a manger and that he went on to mobilize more than 1 billion followers, and so huyu Yesu pia ni mtu wa bottom up, without even attempting go into all the theological problems that such disturbing comparison raises, blasphemy included. We will simply observe that such comparisons tend to be made by people who exhibit a God complex. That said, we further submit that the more we observe his history, the more we should know what to expect from RUTO, because his history bears witness that he has risen to his current station, propelled upward by sheer force of defiance. You will know them by their fruits. Observe, the year is 1997. William RUTO is running to become Member of Parliament for Eldoret North. By Ruto's own admission, President Moi, when he visited Eldoret, told constituents that they should choose between the MP at the time, the late Reuben Chesire, and William Arap Saina, who was also a former MP. Mzee Moi told constituents that they need to elect people whose character is known and whose background is also known. Moi did not even impose a choice. He said, choose between Chesire and Saina, but not this newcomer. Ruto won. He started his political career by defying a man whose name some people even feared to speak. And yet, despite these beginnings, Moi would give him a chance and even give him senior ministerial appointments. And yet gratitude be damned. True to his nature, Ruto continued with his defiance toward the end of Mzee Moi's life, to the point of not being granted audience in the sunset of Mzee's life. You will know them by their fruits. The year is 2002. The same Reuben Chesire that Ruto ran against to become MP and was now the chairman of the Kenya Dairy Board had gone to State House to get permission from Moi to travel abroad on official duties. While there, Reuben Chesire ran into Ruto in the corridors of State House. After a brief discussion, they got into an argument and Ruto is reported to have punched Chesire in the face.
Wow.
The now late Reuben Chesire himself shared this story in his last interview, which he gave to The Standard a few days before he died in 2008. Now, please bear in mind that the late Reuben Chesire was a man many years the senior of Ruto, and in fact, he was a childhood friend of Mzee Moi. Mzee Moi even used to stay at the house of Isaiah Chesire, the father of Reuben Chesire, and Zipporah Kitonya during their school-going days. This Reuben Chesire, childhood friend of Moi, former MP of Eldoret North, and at the time chair of the Kenya Dairy Board, is a man Ruto was reported to have punched at State House. If he was bold enough to do this when Mzee Moi was president, what would he be capable of if he became the primary tenant of State House? You will know them by their fruits. The year is 2008. Ruto is on record having stated several times that he was the one who helped Raila become prime minister. But we also know that the government that was formed, the Grand Coalition government, in which Ruto also became minister, was as a result of a crisis that overturned the constitutional order as we knew it, a crisis brewed by ethnic violence. Ruto was front and center when he witnessed that the next best alternative to gaining power through democratic means is gaining power by precipitating a crisis. In fact, you might recall that it is also because of 2007-2008 that Ruto was taken to the ICC. And despite this, some may even argue because of this, he became deputy president. The question that all this therefore begs is this: if the history of William Ruto's path to power bears witness that the major milestones on his path have been milestones of defiance and overturning the established order, what makes us think that he will deviate from this formula? We are simply asking a question. But having asked this question, allow us as students of government and as students of Professor Mutai to also observe as follows. William Ruto will either become president, or if he doesn't, he will force a coalition. And he will do so by precipitating a crisis. Ask yourself why members of his faction are already beginning to assert as a foregone conclusion that in 2022 elections are going to be rigged. All said and done, we maintain that you will know them by their fruits.
Indeed, we will know them by their fruits. Thank you for joining us on the Media Police Post. See you next Monday.